Howdy, folks, and welcome to another edition of Clary's Corner. A little bit different of an episode today. I invited on a guest host, and so we flipped the camera a little bit. And so I went from the interviewer to the interviewee. One of my good friends read the book and actually interviews me about the JUCO life inside the incredible, bizarre, one-of-a-kind world of junior college baseball. Sales have gone very well so far. It's been out a little bit over a week, maybe two. We moved up to around 40,000 on the Amazon bestseller list, which doesn't sound like much, but it's an incredible accomplishment considering there's millions of books being sold on Amazon. At one point in the first week, we got up to the number 45th best-selling baseball book, which again there's a lot of new books out right now. And a lot of classic baseball books that never leave that top 20 range. So, I'm very humbled by the books that we've sold so far. Thank you if you're one of those people. And I would just ask you, go to the JUCOLife.com, check it out. And almost as importantly, please be sure that whether you have already bought it or are going to buy it, make sure to go leave a review on Amazon. Hopefully you liked it and it'll be 5 stars. Because your reviews, the more reviews we get, will help us move up the Amazon algorithm and up the leaderboard. And so more people can learn about the beauty of junior college baseball and how important it is. So again, the website is thejucolife.com. Go there, learn more about the book. You can pick it up in the book or ebook Kindle version, whichever you like. And I hope that you enjoy this episode of Clary's Corner. Enjoy the show.
Heath Clary. Heath did something no man had ever done before. Walk into the coach of the college baseball team and say, "Coach, can I go wherever you guys go?" Travel some, be around the entire team and then document it all. Clubhouse, dugout.
But it was a great team with a lot of talent, and like I said, I think all those guys will play in the big leagues pretty soon. Howdy, folks. Let's welcome in Ryan MacDonald, a great friend of mine. We met while we were at Texas A&M working in sports media as we made our way through college. He'll be the first guest host at Clary's Corner, so thank you, Ryan, for joining us. I asked Ryan to come on. He read my first book. I think he liked it a lot, at least he said he did. And then he was one of the first to read my second, the JUCO Life. So he has agreed to ask me some questions. He came up with them. He didn't tell me about them. And so he's going to do that. So how's it going today, Ryan?
Pretty good. I'm honored to be the guest host. I have big shoes to fill, and I have some tough questions for you. So I'm ready.
Some tough questions. All right. Well, you're the first guest host. So, I know me and the audience really appreciate you joining us.
Yep. Set the bar high. I'm ready.
All right, let's go.
All right. So, it's kind of towards the end of when you're writing the first book, you kind of told me that there was kind of something else in the works. You kind of at the end, you were talking about this new book, but I guess kind of talk about how you got the idea, where you got the idea, and how you kind of decided that you wanted to pull the trigger and go for it. Yeah,
so, throughout the whole year that I was with Texas A&M baseball for the first book, I just kind of, one of the pieces of new knowledge that I think I gained, a new perspective, was there was a lot of junior college ties to Texas A&M baseball when I was there. Rob Childress got his career started as a junior college coach. Justin Seeley and Will Bolt were the two top assistants the year I was with A&M, and they both coached and played in junior college. Actually, Coach Bolt didn't play, but he coached there. And then just a lot of the guys on the roster played in junior college. And then last year, I was just having a conversation with Logan Sartori, who's a guy I got to know. His first year was last year that got shortened by the pandemic. And he was just, kind of just sharing the virtues of how fun junior college baseball is, how important it was to his development. And then I just started thinking, I was like, there's probably a ton of stories that I could come up with talking to different people. And because, there are so many good products that come out of junior college that turn out to be really good at the Division I level, and even MLB. So, I just wanted to kind of dive into junior college baseball, what made it so special, and what about it allowed players to make such a seamless transition from junior college to high level D1 baseball, and how they could be so productive when they step foot on the Division I campus. And I think I did that in this book.
You did. I read the book. I think I was one of the first ones to order it, and I devoured it. It only took me 2 days. I just found it super fascinating, the different stories. So I guess you get the idea from Logan Sartori about,
Yeah.
Hey, there's this JUCO world that doesn't get much spotlight. So how did you go about finding those individual stories? Because this book is written a little bit different than your last one in that it's kind of 20 pages stories. Each chapter is a different story, a different piece of JUCO baseball. So how did you get those stories? Did you have them planned out when you started, or is this something you just found along the way as you started diving in?
Yeah, so the first interview I did was with Logan. We just had a nice conversation. I think it went over an hour long, and he was pretty invested into it too. I was texting with him like, "Hey, are you ready? Are you ready?" He's like, "I'm actually writing on a piece of." He was like writing on a piece of paper all of his different favorite stories and memories, so that we could have a more productive conversation. And he just shared a ton of stuff, right? Kind of overloaded, like a ton of stories, a ton of crazy things that happened, a ton of reasons why he thought junior college is so good. So then you're right that it's different in that it was a different kind of challenge. I wasn't really chronicling anything. I was kind of finding information and then trying to collate it all together. So it just kind of went from there. As I interviewed more people, I kind of got it down to the different chapters I wanted. And then if I got new interviews that had new content, I would make a new chapter here or there. And so it's kind of a mix. Like some of the chapters are just profiling people, and other ones just kind of get into the details about junior college, why it's different, how it's a different brand of baseball, and just share a lot of facts and information as well in those chapters.
Right, and obviously doing something like that, lots of long hours, long nights in the lab. But
For sure.
from getting that idea from Sartori to putting it out on Amazon, how long did that take, and what was kind of your writing schedule?
Yeah, so it probably took, I think I started it around March, right when the pandemic hit. It was probably late March, early April when I really put my number 2 pencil to paper with those long nights in the lab. And then I probably finished around October. And then kind of October, November was the finishing touches where I had to, do some editing and make sure that I was able to get it up on Amazon, the ebook, the paperback, and all that stuff. So, it was, 5-6 months of interviews and writing. Luckily, some of the contacts I made right in the first one had junior college experience, whether they were players, coaches. And so if I interviewed them for that book, I said, "Hey, can I interview about this new topic?" And the interviewees were so great that it made my job pretty easy and allowed me to do it quicker. So I think we wrote it pretty quickly, and it was very fun.
Getting into the book, so when I read it, my favorite chapter was all about the Sanjak trio, right? So I don't want to give away too much, but
Right.
Story of Roger Clemens, Andy Pettit, and then legendary head coach Wayne Graham
Yep.
at San Jacinto College. So what was it like getting to talk to those guys and really tell a story that I haven't seen reported widely, and just something that a crazy story that has kind of gone unreported before kind of you told their story. What was that like?
Yeah, no, that was definitely a special one. It was a later developing chapter. I actually had the whole book, pretty much finished. And then I got the opportunity to interview those three gentlemen, starting with Wayne Graham. Had a great chat with him. And then I was able to connect with Andy Pettit and then Roger Clemens to make to fulfill the three parts of the trio. It was really cool just seeing it on my phone one afternoon. It was like a phone call, and it said block number, right? Because Roger Clemens, he has like one of those numbers that you can't see it, and you just know that means it's somebody famous. So getting to interview him was great because he doesn't do. I don't know. I haven't seen him do a media interview in a while that's not affiliated with UT. When he does, he'll go on to talk about the UT baseball. But so that was awesome, and I was very happy that I was able to be the one to kind of bring that story to light. They had an incredible run. Wayne Graham, he took over in 1980 at San Jac, made the transition from high school coach to junior college coach, and one of his first recruits that he was able to get was a guy named Roger Clemens. And so he was there in Graham's first year in 1981. And then in Graham's last year, 1991, he had a guy named Andy Pettit, who was, a great pitcher for them. And Wayne Graham, he won at one point 5 national championships in 6 years. They made the trip to Grand Junction for the World Series almost every year. But they didn't make it. It's interesting because they didn't make it in either of the years that Clemens or Pettit was on the team. So it was a legendary run. And then, of course, Wayne Graham goes on to be the legendary coach at Rice. And Clemens and Pettit, as everybody knows, went on to stardom in the big league. So I added that chapter in, put it at the very beginning to kind of get the book started with a bang in what I think is one of the best chapters. And I'm just very grateful that those three guys agreed to be interviewed by me. And I hope I did their story justice in that San Jac Trio chapter.
I think you did. I remember you telling me about kind of that story, and I was just like, there's no way you're going to be able to get the Rocket to agree to an interview just based on his lack of media availability. But it was a great story. So that was my favorite chapter. But
well, especially with me being a Texas A&M grad,
Exactly. Yeah, that was working against you. So that was my favorite chapter. But was there a story that kind of sticks out to you as the best or one of the better ones in your book?
Well, I think that's one of mine as well, the San Jac Trio. I also think the chapter where I went into the Weatherford College, the year that Jake Arrieta graced that campus, that was also it was a great chapter, not just because there was obviously a lot of Arrieta stuff, but I also had the chance to tell some pretty crazy JUCO only stories. Kind of there's several stories in there where I would write it and then I would say, that's junior college baseball. Whether it's something that's so crazy, whether it's something that they had to do a crazy style of workout, a brutal game, something to do with travel. They do just bus travel mostly in junior college, whereas in D1 they're flying, sometimes privately. So that Weatherford one was a great chapter, and I'm sure that you had a question about that specifically, but yeah.
Yeah, that chapter stuck out to me as well. I also, I just thought it was crazy because I can't remember which player it was, but they talked about eating just like peanut butter sandwiches, basically whatever that they could come up with, and then they get to D1 and they start eating. They said Zoe's Kitchen, so it was
Exactly.
just
Yeah.
kind of a culture shock in a good way once you get up to D1. But it really is a testament to how grinders they are in the JUCO ranks.
Yeah, and also kind of, I guess the biggest, point, the main idea of that chapter was the recruiting story of Jake Arrieta being in junior college, having only an average at best year at Weatherford. And then he has kind of some good fortune where he happens to be seen at a tournament by Jim Schlossnagle. who's the head coach at TCU. He was just kind of getting started at TCU, hadn't built them up into the powerhouse they are now back then. And he was able to see Jake Arrieta on when Arrieta was throwing really well. And he was a late addition to that recruiting class at TCU, and the rest was history after that.
Right. And so I guess talking about the main stories throughout the book, I would be kind of mistaken to leave out the story about the discovery of Hunter Pence at Texarkana Junior College. Can you talk about that one, and what was the kind of development of that one? What did that look like?
Right, definitely. So, that was another great one. Hunter Pence being another very high profile player who was started at junior college and then ended up, ascending to not only being a professional player and not only being a major league player, but a major league superstar who had a tremendous, very long, reliable career at baseball's highest level. But yeah, Hunter Pence was, he was coached by Matt Deggs, who's kind of became a well-known name in the college baseball world.
Right.
And, he went to see, he didn't even go to see Hunter specifically. He kind of went to this field, just kind of like just an open field. It wasn't even a specific baseball field. And he was looking at another kid, and Hunter Pence happened to be there, his friend. He said, Coach Deggs told me he's just a long drink of water, who he didn't really think much of, but then he started seeing him take some batting practice. And he said it was like, thunderbolts coming off his bat every time he made contact with the ball. And he could tell right away that he had a special ability at the plate. And he was able to get him because Hunter Pence was his senior year, and he had no colleges talking to him. I think he had an injury that I get into a little bit, and he just hadn't developed yet. And that's another storyline from the book. Like, some players just haven't developed physically yet. And so Division I coaches aren't going to use one of their scholarships. They only get 11.7. So, if a guy's not developed yet, maybe he has to go to junior college to get that seasoning, that experience. And, Hunter Pence got that opportunity at Texarkana, ran with it. They had a heck of a team. It was 2002 at Texarkana. And, he made the most of it, and it was an awesome story.
Right. So that just kind of scratches the surface there. I didn't want to give away too much of the story.
Yeah, I do. I don't. I like that you're saying that. I don't want to give away the whole thing, because then they're not going to go buy the book, right?
Exactly. So
we want everybody to go buy the book at the JUCOLife.com, and so you can read it for yourselves. But we're just trying to wet their whistle, right, Ryan?
Exactly. Yeah, those were just some of the main points, but certainly the details is what made me really enjoy the book. So you'll have to get a copy for yourself. But so we talked about some of the main points, but what were some of the themes that you noticed that surround JUCO baseball that were really highlighted by the different experiences that you were able to share?
I would say the toughness is they get tough, they get calloused, they have to go through some things that most baseball players don't have to go to, whether it's the eating, like you mentioned, just the peanut butter sandwiches, whether it's the working out. I think one story was, punishment after a game, and they just went home and went straight to the football field, right? And just had to do a bunch of high knees, leg kicks, sprints, running for hours after the game because they didn't play well. So, and also the other main point that I haven't brought up yet is the time limit aspect of things, which may be the biggest selling point of junior college. There's no time limits. So in Division I, teams only get 20 hours a week of practice time. So that's, over 5 days. Some teams will practice 6 days. So, I mean, you're looking at less than around 3 hours a day, and that's working out, practice, whatever. Well, in junior college, it's like the Wild West, right? They can do whatever they want. There's no rules regarding time. And so that's just more opportunity for them to develop as baseball players, but also more opportunity for them to kind of get their bodies punished by demanding coaches. And that might be one of the reasons that they turn out so good.
Yeah, it just seemed like throughout the book there was just some brutal conditioning going on.
Oh
Because
yeah,
of that lack of time limit, and you can kind of tell that in order to stay there, you have to really like baseball.
definitely. And also, the coaching side of things. I did a chapter on, most of the book is about players, but the chapter about coaching, junior college is a very valuable place where a young coach can learn. He's in charge of everything. He has to do a lot of things that a Division I coach doesn't have to do, but
Even
that
cutting
helps
the
him
grass.
cut the grass. Exactly. And Rob Childress, the head coach at Texas A&M, who I know well, and who was generous enough to write the foreword to the book. He writes, and this is, at first I was thinking, is this a typo? Did he leave off a zero? His first contract was $2,000 a year, not a month, a year, right? At Texarkana. Not too long ago, because Coach Childress is still a young man, but he's making $2,000 a year as a coach. Well, you're not going to take that job. No coach is going to take it unless they really love baseball, whether they really love coaching. And that's kind of what you see at junior colleges all around the country, is guys who love the game, love to practice, and love everything that goes into playing baseball.
How do you think JUCO just as a whole prepares these guys that go into D1? Because a lot of them, we see it at A&M and all the other major baseball programs. How do you think that conditioning and that mentality and that just lunch pail work ethic really helps them out at the D1 level?
Lunch pail, I like it. Well, I think it very much prepares them. Probably there's two sides of it. The first part is obviously the playing part of it, right? On the field, what they can do. They do see, it varies. Like, I think Sartori said it best. He's like, you never know what you're going to see. So you might, travel to a new school that you've never been before, and you could see like a future MLB draft pick, right? Thrown in the low to mid to high 90s, right? Or you could go to a different place and the pitcher's throwing like 70-mile-an-hour curveballs, right? That are barely breaking glass as they cross the plate. So you see it all. You do see a lot of talent, right? So that gets them prepared to succeed on the field. But I think maybe the more important part is that they learn to work, they learn to compete, they learn to overcome adversity, and also they learn to be just more appreciative of their opportunity. To where when they get to junior college, or when they get to their Division I school from day one, they just feel like it's a blessing to be there, considering what they've been through to get there, and they're ready to get after it.
Right. So do you think that there's sort of I think you might have mentioned it in the book, but I think from writing the book and me reading it, I kind of gained a new perspective about JUCO baseball and kind of a new respect for the guys that come up from those ranks. So do you think that there's sort of a stigma that's kind of going away, that people kind of put their noses up at when they hear JUCO, but now, not just because of your book, but just kind of a transition mindset because of how successful these JUCO guys have been in D1, that you come out of high school, maybe you're not fully developed, maybe you just haven't put it all together yet, but JUCO's a very real option to get you to that next level. Right.
No, definitely. And I would say yes. And I interviewed a few, media people who said that the reputation is kind of changing. I know that me personally, I kind of was in that camp. I remember when I got to college, I was like, why, this guy came from junior college? Like, what's he doing? But then I saw, Kyle Simons, and then I saw Michael Hellman, and then I saw Logan Sartori. And I was like, wait a minute, these guys, they're coming into Texas A&M in one of the best teams and in definitely the best conference in the country. And, Hellman and Sartori just take over and they're hitting over 300.
Right.
So that kind of was when the light bulb went off to me, when I was seeing Hellman and Sartori, that there's something real to this. Somehow they're getting prepared at junior college. And so for me personally, I definitely had my mind changed writing this book. And it opened my eyes to how special and competitive of an environment junior college baseball really is.
Right. So the book's been out, what is it, almost a month now?
A couple weeks, I think two plus weeks. I
2 or
think.
3
Well,
weeks?
yeah.
What's some of the feedback that you've gotten so far?
Well, I think only the fast readers like you have actually gotten all the way through it.
Right.
I know, several people have told me that they've purchased it and have liked it a little bit, like the few chapters that they've read. And it's interesting. It looks like my strategic decision to put the San Jack trio at the beginning was a good one, because, people are reading that chapter and they're telling me, wow, I didn't know Roger Clemens. I didn't know Roger Clemens played at junior college. How did that happen? And I say, well, that's exactly what my thought was. And so, I think we'll have to wait a little bit longer to get better feedback. But so far, everything I've read has been positive, including from you, of course.
Of course. It's really interesting because I think the target demographic for the book is just so broad. I mean, you don't even have to be a baseball fan, just someone who's semi-interested in sports, I would say, because it's kind of this world that I don't know, I like to think of it as like an underground world compared to D1 baseball that not a lot of people cover. And it's kind of that same type of, I guess, feel-good stories from players who come from nothing, JUCO, where they're just constantly baseball, 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 working out, not many fans, not ideal conditions, but make it to the top. So it kind of reminded me of the show like Last Chance U, and that
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
stories, and you kind of get to see behind the curtain a little bit.
yeah, no, that's what I try to do in all my writing is kind of, show fans a different perspective, give them some inside baseball. But I just, for some reason, I thought of this quote from the book that I remember. Walker Pennington, who went to San Jack, TCU, and A&M. He said, like, it's just a crazy environment, world, like you called it, because you're batting and there's so few fans that, like, he said if he would get rung off on a pitch off the plate, like he could hear his dad yelling from the stands at the ump, right? And at the same time that's happening, there might be a handful of guys who are going to play professionally, right? So it's like you have this crazy dynamic where there's no fans, and not really any media interest or interest really from anybody but a select few, like family members and scouts. But at the same time, there could be a couple first-round picks that are performing. And so it's just a crazy dynamic to think about. And I tried to demonstrate it in the book.
Right. I mean, you look at the stands probably empty and you got 100 pence at the plate. So, I mean,
Yeah.
it's an amazing world. Well, Heath, this has been great, man. Is there anything else? You can correct me. What did I miss?
You know what? I think you did a great job in your audition, your guest appearance. I'm trying to think. I mean, I'm just wondering, was there any other stories that you forgot to mention that you wanted to ask me about? Or, I got to give credit to Logan Sartori, because, which I did, I credited him in the introduction and also in the acknowledgments. This is a guy who was barely 5 feet and 100 pounds going into high school.
Yeah.
And I put in the book, he was a guy tailor-made for junior college because, he was a late developer, but everywhere he went, he hit. And, that included high school, that included junior college, that includes SEC today. And also he showed the toughness because I think in the game where Hutchinson came to watch him, he injured his finger on his first at bat of the game, and it hurt him. It hurt to swing the bat. But did he come out? No, because he knew Hutch was in the stands, right? And so even though it felt very painful to swing, I think he goes 0 for 4. But he plays a good game in the field, and he shows Hutch enough to give him a shot. And so it worked out there. So he already showed a little bit of the toughness beforehand, developed it at Hutch, and now it's on display at Texas A&M, and I think he'll get drafted. and hopefully move up the ranks of professional baseball as well.
Right. That was another one of the, just, it seems like dozens of crazy stories throughout your book that you've kind of uncovered and brought to light.
Do you remember the Jim Schlossnagle story when he saw Jake Arrieta? How crazy was that?
That was pretty crazy. I mean, I have to say.
Yeah, I mean, so let's give the fans a little taste of that. So
are we gonna go there? Or are we just gonna wet their mouths a little bit?
we'll wet it a little bit more. All right. So Jake Arrieta, he's pitching right in a summer league up in the DFW area, and he's starting, and he's just trying to decide, does he want to go to a 4-year college, although there's not that many out there, wanting his services, or does he go back to Weatherford for another year? Well, Jim Schlossnagle, he's actually going to this game to see a closer, right? Brent Aller, who I actually also interviewed for the book. And Schlossnagle's recruiting coordinator says, you don't have to get there for the beginning, right? Just get there for the 6th or 7th inning, just to make sure you can see this closer, and then watch him and see if we want to add him to the class. But Schloss said, no, if I'm going to go, I'll just see the whole thing. Well, he sees this big physical righty thrown in the 90s, which is Jake Arrieta.
Right.
And then he calls his recruiting coordinator, is like, I don't care about the closer. Who's this Arrieta guy? And then I'll just leave the rest of the story open, because then what happens next is even crazier. And a lot of good fortune comes along in baseball. And I was, thankful that I could put that story out there into the ether as well. And I think fans will really enjoy that one, because, Arrieta, he's a Cy Young winner. He's a World Series champ, and he's a pretty big name.
Right. That's a story similar to the Hunter Pence story. Coaches go in there looking for someone else, but kind of find a diamond in the rough, which, I mean, there's a certain luck aspect there for sure. I also liked when Schloss talked about kind of the scholarships and how that the money allocation works differently in college, and how some of the ways that they can convince a player to come to TCU, which I'm a college baseball fan, but I've never heard him get down to the specifics about kind of breaking down the financial standpoint, the housing, how they can kind of finagle the scholarships to make it a better deal for the college baseball recruit.
Right, and I'll just leave with this. I think another kind of takeaway that I had was just how attractive junior college can be, even if you are, pretty highly sought after by some colleges. Maybe you have a few offers, right, Division I, but not your favorite offer. Well, how about this? And I'm not saying everybody should do this, but consider it, right? How about you go to junior college for 1 or 2 years, right? Instead of sitting on the bench, which, unless you're really special, unless you're a stud like an Alex Bregman or a really good player, right? You're going to sit on the bench for 1 or 2 years. How about go to junior college for 1 or 2 years where you don't have to pay hardly anything, right? Junior colleges are pretty cheap. Then after your junior college time, you can go right away as an experienced sophomore or junior to the Division I team, right? Play a year at junior college, and then you're a 3rd-year player getting drafted, and you can start your major league ascent at that point. And so I never really thought about that, and I'm a pretty hardcore baseball fan, as you know,
Right.
But I never really thought about how it's very attractive, because you can show up day one at that Division I school much more prepared that route than if you show up as a highly touted freshman recruit, right? So definitely I learned that it's a great option, and one that I think more and more people are going to start taking advantage of moving forward.
Well, you're right, because as you said, you get to a D1 school, you're probably sitting on the bench for a couple of years, whereas you go to San Jack, Grayson College, any of these, you're getting hundreds of at-bats, just constantly baseball, and it really, I guess, catalyzes your development for a lot of players.
Well, I mean, there's this one, I profiled kind of the 2016 San Jack team that had Devin Smeltzer on it. That was another of my favorite chapters that we'll have to delve into at a later date.
Yep.
And they have, like, you're talking about 5, 6, 7 guys who play professionally. And one already in Smeltzer has made it to the show, and a couple others are probably going to follow. And I talked to one guy who said that was the best baseball team I ever played on. And he played on an SEC team. So there's it. If you're really good and can go to San Jack, then that's even a better option because that's basically a Division I team, right? It has a ton of guys who either just came from Division I or are about to become either D1 or drafted players. And so that's, San Jack. You could probably write a whole book on San Jack, but I think I hit the high points in this one with Roger Clemens, Andy Pettit, and Devin Smeltzer, and also Wayne Graham. So San Jack definitely has some words being written for him in this one, and I think it was an all-around great book, Ryan.
I agree. I think we teased him enough with all of our stories. We'll have to save the rest for Roadhouse. Maybe
Exactly.
We'll, go into it a little bit further, but obviously, congratulations on the book, Heath. It's been a great success so far, as was your first one. But I just recommend everyone go to, is it heathclary.com?
Yeah, so if you want to learn more about me, you can go to heathclary.com. It'll have my first book on there, as well as how to go to the second one. But if you just want to go straight to this one, right, you can go to thejucolife.com, and that will take you to the Amazon page of this book, and you can get it there, paperback. It's like a hard paperback or the ebook, right, the Kindle. And so I would ask everybody to go do that and make sure you give us a review to say how you like the book.
Exactly. I remember doing it off Amazon was so easy. I had it, I think, less than 48 hours after I ordered it. And 48 hours after that, I had finished it. So I highly recommend it to any sports fan or any fan of feel-good stories at all. So thanks for doing this, Heath. And hopefully I did all right. I had big shoes to fill.
Yeah, Ryan, well, maybe we will have to invite you back. So everybody, that's Ryan MacDonald. Has a long history and career in sports media. And so I know that some of my best times in college were, spent right next to Ryan as we worked at a couple different outlets. And so yeah, Ryan, thanks again for guest hosting Clary's Corner. I hope you enjoyed it very much.
I did. Congrats, Heath.
Thank you, Ryan. Have a good one.
You too, man.
Thank you for watching that episode of Clary's Corner. I hope you enjoyed it. Now you have to go to thejucolife.com to check out, learn more about my book, The JUCO Life. Even though it is not a huge topic, junior college baseball, it still is one that's very important to college and professional baseball teams. And really, there's never been a book like mine to dive into everything, every aspect of JUCO baseball. What makes it so special, so pure, and so beneficial? So again, that website is thejucolife.com to go learn more about my book. And definitely after you buy it, go review it on Amazon. Hopefully it's 5 stars. And then go be a force multiplier. Go tell a couple other people that you know who like baseball or sports in general about the JUCO Life. Share the website with them because I promise you they will enjoy it as well. Also, don't be afraid to share it on social media. Subscribe to the show if you like Clary's Corner. Share it with family members too, and so that you never miss an episode. Thank you very much. This is Heath Clary with Clary's Corner. God bless.